Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. As you spend much time with individuals who have strong narcissistic tendencies, I know you can feel quite puzzled when you see how easy it is or how effortless or natural it is for them to be selfish. It's just a raw ingredient that just keeps popping up over and over. They're very self-impressed and enamored and entitled. They're also highly controlling and manipulative, phony and condescending and accusing and angry and defensive. All of those characteristics just seem to come so natural toward you, and to the point where you think this is just built into their character. It's indigenous and it's automatic. That's how they tend to engage with you. One of the things I'm assuming is when you and I get to know each other and have intimacy with one another, much of it is predicated on knowing our mistakes and our difficulties and strains and problems, and then we learn how to blend with each other and say, well, you're human and I'm human. Let's figure out how we can work with one another in the midst of all of that. Narcissists, though, have such a strong lack of they have such a strong lack of empathy based on those other characteristics that they're not able to go into that kind of healthy space. In fact, I actually refer to narcissism as being the absence of love. That being the case, understanding what I'm saying, I'm hoping you can realize that one of the tasks that's virtually impossible for them to master, it's one of the most difficult things for them to come to terms with, is simply this. And that is understanding and accepting you in your humanity. We each bring mistakes. There are times when your emotions are not right and you've made blunders or you've miscalculated or you did a project that wasn't there or you just forgot certain things. And so does that narcissist. And part of getting along with each other is to say, hey, look, let's work with each other on that. Narcissists don't do that. They don't accept you in your humanity. Instead, they're scorekeepers, they're data gatherers, they're opportunists, and they want to get what they can from you. And if you're not going to give it to them, it's not going to go very well. And as a result, there are certain key phrases that you simply are not going to hear that narcissists say. For example, you won't hear them say something like, I realize that you're a real person with real needs. I'd like to get to know you more fully. You won't hear them say something like, well, I understand that you, like everybody else, has a backstory. I think we could each benefit by sharing our backstories with one another. I'd like to do that. They won't go into that space. You won't hear them say, I realize that your emotions have arisen from some sort of desire or need, and I'd like to know the context of why you feel the way that you feel. Let's take some time to break that out. They certainly won't go into that space with you. They'll just overwhelm you with their strong emotion. You won't hear them say something like, I know you have your own distinct interests and skills and desires, just like I do. How did you develop those anyway? Or taking off on that, you won't hear them say something like, I know that your opinions aren't always the same as mine. What influences did you have that caused you to have some of the opinions that you currently hold on to? They won't say that. Or likewise, you won't hear them say something like, well, when you and I differ from one another, that doesn't equal being wrong. Let's see if we can harmonize even in the midst of our differences. And they simply will not say, no one, not you, not me, wants to be treated rudely. So why don't we invoke the golden rule? And by the way, I'll go first. They can't go into that kind of mindset with you. Whenever you show your mistakes or your frailties or your humanity, when you have needs, when you blunder, when you miscalculate, it's like, oh, I am so going to clobber you. And they cannot accept you in the midst of your mistakes. Instead, what you would hear is either spoken words or implied attitudes that might sound something like this. The narcissist is going to bring a notion that says, you know what, I've concluded you're just screwed up down at the core. We need to do something about that. Get out of here. Or they might say something like, or think something like, well, if you have positive qualities, that means I have something that I get to exploit. Wonder what that's going to be. I'd like to gain from that. They might think something more like, when you illustrate confusion, or if you just differ from me, you're going to be sorry. In fact, you're on my bad list, and I'm going to make you rue the day that you ever came up against me. I don't let people disagree with me. That's not something I do. Or instead, what they'll bring to the relationship is they may think something like, you know what? I hate being around losers like you. I don't like it when you disappoint me. And then they may bring a thought that says, your efforts to try to find meaning and to understand all the frailties or faults that you and I may have, that you may think that that's meaningful for you. But let me just explain something to you. If you'll do what I say you're supposed to do, then you're going to be a whole lot better. Let me just tell you what you need to do and knock off all that introspective stuff that you try to do. They'll also bring a thought that says your mistakes and your frailties prove that you're worthless. And then they'll add to it, my mistakes prove that you're worthless. In other words, you're the cause for all the problems that we have. Let's not break that down and see if we can have an understanding. If I could make more people think the way that I think and cater to me, this world would be a better place. So do not upset me with your complaints about why you and I are not getting along or why certain mistakes have happened. I don't want to hear from it. That's what they're going to bring. Rather than saying, you have your humanity, I have my humanity, let's see if we can blend. They won't go into that space. Now, in my 40 plus years as a therapist, one of the things that I would do when people would come to my counseling office is I would want to create a safe haven for them. I would want them to know when you come into my presence, worth is just simply established here. And I want you to feel like you can say anything that you need to say. Let me know what you feel. And I'm hoping that you can realize that acceptance is something that's a given here. And then let's see if we can break down what's going on so that you can figure out how you can become the best version of yourself. But narcissists can't go into that space. And it's essential for you to realize that there are reasons that they have such difficulty accepting your humanity. First and foremost, in their personal history, they didn't feel safe in exposing their humanity. They realized that any kind of exposure of their hurt or emotion or need or mistakes was going to be met with all sorts of negative kind of reaction. That's what they've learned, and that's what they're bringing in to you. It's a projection of some of their own unresolved emotion. For most of their life, narcissists have been perfecting the art, if you will, of cover-up, or the art of spin control. That's how they think. And so you come along and say, hey, let's be real. It's like, I don't do that. To them, it's far more advantageous simply to ridicule your humanity than to address their own. And as a result, they go toward a pathway toward power as opposed to the pathway of love. You see, in their mind, loving you, especially in the midst of your imperfections, seems, at least to them, to be a betrayal of their own hard opinions. They live by their own pronouncements of correct versus incorrect, and actually by loving you or accepting you, or if they were to think like that, it's such a foreign concept that it's like, I don't know how to go into that space. Instead, their natural psychological language is loathing. They loathe you because they learn to loathe their own frailties, and they're very afraid of being exposed as being somebody who's inadequate or who doesn't always know everything. That's the language that they have grown up in. That's the language that they bring to you. And so when they're faced with the situation of saying, we need to accept each other in the midst of our differences and our difficulties, it's like, nobody ever introduced me to that kind of thinking, and I don't feel like today's the day that I need to start learning. It's pretty pitiable, and you can see that this is a formula for disaster, and as a result, I'm hoping you can realize that these are not individuals, particularly when your humanity is on display, that are going to be safe for you in the least. Narcissists use a really strange sense of logic, or we can even call it a non-logic. They think to themselves that there's an ideal way of life out there, and clearly you are not ideal. They don't make room for the fact that none of us are. And so therefore they think to themselves, well, why don't we do this? I'm going to pronounce myself as the one who gets to judge you, and let's just overlook my flaws in the process. And they love being the one who pounces on you emotionally and verbally and makes your life miserable whenever you say, well, I am frail at times, or I am a mistake maker. I'm a mixture of both minuses and pluses. It's like, no, I don't do that. Instead, the narcissist secretly holds on to one really, really large thought, and that is, please, please don't make me admit that we're all frail humans. I am way too fragile to go into that style of thinking. That's what's going on there. And so when the relationship requires accepting one another in our humanity, it's like, you picked the wrong person. I've got a club and I'm going to use it and I'm going to make you miserable. And my response to that is, I see it, I understand it. I need to move away and be toward other individuals who allow me to be human, because that's what we are. And narcissists like, I'm not in that club. And my response is, I know. I need to move forward with people who can let me be human. I hope that videos like this can give you some good food for thought. If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. Look at the videos in a cumulative basis, and I hope it can help you in your growth trajectory. If you have a need for therapy, many of you know that I'm already sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. There's a link below that will take you to their resources. And there's a few forms you have to fill out. If you go through our link below, then you get a 10% discount on your first month. And please accept the help and seek the help that would be most beneficial for you. Likewise, I have my therapeutic courses, and these are meant to assist you in your growth. Each course has multiple videos. It's like signing up for a class, written documents, guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect about having good connection skills. This is me about establishing your boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite those controllers. We also have my webinars that I presented, and you can still purchase those. We also have my podcast, our website with many articles on there, my books, plenty of resources, and I truly appreciate you letting me be on your path with you. Narcissists bring all sorts of inward strain and struggle, and they need someone to accept them in their humanity, but they can't do that because they're so defensive, and as a result, they can't really accept you and your humanity. Let's understand what we're dealing with. In the meantime, I'm hoping you can say, well, I'm committed to a much better path, one that's much more realistic, realizing we're a mixed bag, and let's put that out there with one another. As you're able to do that, I'm hoping that it allows you to have that ongoing sense of dignity, respect, and civility that we stand for here on Team Healthy. And ultimately, it can position you to be a person of true peace.